All right. Welcome to the Ford the Rock podcast, and today's guest is Paul Sletten, owner of multiple restaurants in downtown Rockford and a food truck, I think.
Yeah, a couple of them.
A couple food trucks? What do you got in food trucks?
So we have the Disco Chicken food truck,
Right.
which is we opened in 2019. We also have the Bad Humor ice cream truck. So we have a line of ice cream that we make. We also sell it at Disco Chicken, but the ice cream truck rolls around as well. And then we have two mobile cocktail bars out of old VW buses.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
We called it V-Dubs, but then Volkswagen sued us for the name, and so we folded it into the Disco brand, and so they're called Disco Drinks now.
Disco drinks now. What's the ice cream called?
Bad Humor.
Bad Humor.
Play on good humor. So surprisingly, we got a trademark for the name.
Oh, really?
I was surprised. I didn't think I didn't think we'd get it in a million years, but we got it last year. So.
All right. Well, why don't you name off the restaurants then, too?
Yeah. So the 4 restaurants: Abreo, which was opened in 2005. Social, opened in 2010. Disco Chicken, the food truck was opened in 2019. The restaurant was opened last year, 2024. And our latest one is Harvey Wallbangers that we just opened 6 weeks ago, located in the old Irish Rose location.
Well, let's talk about the restaurants first. What possessed you to go ahead and buy the old Irish Rose that had been sitting there for a couple of years,
Yeah.
empty? And I assume that was hurting traffic. It certainly hurt the appearances of downtown.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was, being a neighbor of the Irish Rose for almost 20 years, and knowing Mike for 20 years, him and I had talked about it, in the past, whenever he was going to retire or sell or move on. We obviously hoped it didn't go out the way it did, but that I'd be interested in buying the building. My building is joined to that building, so it obviously made sense that if there's an opportunity that I'd want to own it. So I made an offer when the place originally went on the market. It was a blind offer deal, so basically everybody put their offers in and they just took the highest bid. Or that's what they told us, so that's what I assume happened. And so we actually didn't have the highest bid, and so it went on for about another year where the building still didn't close. So the opportunity came back to make an offer, and we were able to reach an arrangement and make it work.
So now I've been in Harvey's as affectionately. I've already called it just Harvey's.
No, everybody calls it Harvey's.
Harvey's, yeah.
We knew that going into it.
So I've been in several times, and you just really haven't changed the interior at
No.
all. The feel is, other than taking down the wall of the dead above the bar, which I
Yeah.
think was appropriate.
Yeah, we basically, the pictures of the people that were on the wall were already gone. Those weren't there. The only things that were left on the wall when I got the building were the dead poets. The main ones, the 4 big Irish poets. And we loved them. They fit the Irish Rose. We are obviously not Irish. I'm Norwegian, actually. So it didn't fit us, and so, but I knew they meant a lot to a lot of people. So we just put them up on Facebook and sold them at auction. And 4 people that really loved those paintings got to take them home. So they were really excited about it. The posters themselves, when you actually looked at them, they were nothing more than just a copy print of pictures. They weren't like actual like paintings or drawings. I mean, they were just photocopied sheets on old doors. But they meant a lot to people. So again, it was really cool to see those go to people that enjoyed them. And then we took my wife spent a lot of time at the Midway Museum, and just kind of searching through archives of Rockford. So we replaced a lot of the spots in the walls with just old pictures of downtown Rockford, especially our building. We've got a picture of J.L. Clark in that building when he was in there,
Yeah,
in
right.
the 1860s. My timeline is probably not as good as Karen's, but so it's really neat. We got some awesome pictures up there. We're still looking for more. So just because for me, especially owning several buildings downtown, being committed to being down here for over 20 years, I love the history and I love the buildings and I love the stories. And so for me, that building, that 519, that building is like the Louis or the St. Louis archway to downtown. It's just when you get to downtown, you feel like you've arrived when you see that building. You see that triangle shape, you see those windows, you see that parking lot, and so it just means a lot to me to have that building, with life in it again, and so yeah, we love it.
Well, actually, you're right. The parking lot, that's the first time I've realized it, but the parking lot is part of the symbol. I mean, it's part of the whole complex. Now, but have you taken all the Irish poets down?
Yeah, there's a couple left up. We had a couple small ones that I liked, and I'm terrible with remembering the names of who they are. Again, I'm not Irish and I don't read poetry, so
that's
not in my wheelhouse. So another reason I took them down, because it's not authentic, and I think it's important when you're creating a brand and creating a business that you're authentic with what you're doing, and there's some genuine love and experience with it. But there was the one, and I don't know, again, I don't remember who it is, but he looks like John Goodman to me, and it was always sitting above the stereo when you walk in.
right.
And so I left that one exactly where it was, because I personally loved that one every time I walked in and I saw it. And there's two other ones that were cool, and so we just left them up, because again, we love it that it ties it to the history and the memories that people have of that place, and so and I actually do have the old Blade sign that was on the State Street, the old Irish Rose light up sign with the Guinness logo on it. So when we took it down to put our Harvey's one up there, we had Garrett at Signs Now took it down, and he's bringing it back to us, and we're going to turn it into hopefully a piece that we could put back up in the restaurant.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, again, just the history is just so cool downtown, and there's just so many great stories and so many great people and businesses that have incorporated so many of these buildings. So we're trying to find more of those stories to share.
Okay, so you've got 4 restaurants. Let's go through them real quick. I mean, cover Harvey's. Well, what kind of food do you have?
So I look to it as like a European bar food, kind of brasserie type food. Simple steaks, chops, some seafood, or a good amount of seafood, steaks, chops, pasta. We nice and affordable. We try to keep most of our entrees, under $20 as much as we can. Obviously, some of the seafood and steaks, cost a little bit more. But just a really comfort food driven, good quality ingredients, simple preparations. Big beer list. We've got 8 beers on tap, including our HW Ale, which is modeled after Bass Ale. When I bought the building, the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to put a black and tan on the menu. So I wanted Guinness and I wanted Bass. And when I went to go buy the Bass, I found out they don't make it anymore. That one of the big conglomerates, bought it, killed it.
Really?
So you can't get Bass.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. So I was super disappointed, super shocked. And so Joe from Carlisle Woodfire, Joe came down and was hanging out, and I was like, Joe, you got to make me a Bass. Like I need to fulfill this dream of having black and tan on my menu here at Harvey's. And he's like, I'm on it. So he got to work, and I think it only took him like 3-4 weeks. And so right now our black and tan is our HW Ale made by Carlisle and Bass. So that's kind of the vibe of the menu, just simple, delicious, easygoing, comforting. Nothing that you're not going to understand. No, terms or words or techniques. No tweezers used.
Yeah, it's not like Abreo.
It's very stark contrast.
Yeah, it's very stark contrast because I have to Google half the titles and things.
Yeah.
At Abreo.
Yeah.
So
And that's what we love. We love the brands because they give us 4 different ways to express our love for hospitality and food and drinks and be able to create different feelings for our guests when they come in. Sometimes they feel like being fancy and, eating at, at Abreo or eating at Social. Sometimes they feel like, they just want a quick snack and they're running to Harvey's or Disco. Sometimes they feel like progressing through the day and they're going to start at, Harvey's and get an appetizer and a beer, and then they're going to go to Brio and get a small plate. They're going to go late night cocktail at Social, and then they're going to go, go even later till 2 a.m. at Disco because we serve food all the way to the end. And all the other places, go get some Thai food one day, and go grab a burger another day, down at the brew house. It's just we want to balance out the experiences downtown.
well, I think you've done that, and it's something that downtown needs. And the opening of Harvey's has really done that.
Yeah.
The other thing is you now have some balance to the street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it got where the the west end of the street was getting all the action.
Yeah.
And you've now moved it up, and it's pretty even keel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I say this a lot. I'm pot committed, right? People are asking me all the time, to open up a spot out east or, somewhere else, and which, I would, sounds great. And, but, for me, I love this area so much. I love the fact that you can, literally walk from place to place, within, blocks of each other, sometimes feet of each other. It's a concentration of great things between music, sports, food. It's just we've got Airbnbs, we've got hotels. You've got the new things coming down all the time. You're gonna have the water, the new docks coming in. You're gonna have the new amphitheater down there.
Davis Park.
Or Davis Park, yeah. Hopefully a train. There's just so much. Downtowns are where, people are meant to be. It's a concentration of exciting things, and so we're pot committed to it. And anytime there's an opportunity where we can do something that kind of helps balance it out and make it more exciting and draw more people down here, we're happy to do it.
Well, you mentioned Airbnb. Now you have a couple Airbnbs, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
You have at least one, I know.
We have 4.
You have 4, and they get to them on the Facebook or how?
Yeah, they go to. We've got links to them on our Abreo website. So,
Okay.
and they're just on Airbnb app. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they can get them. Are they usually full or?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think the 4th one's not online yet, just because it was, it's still kind of being furnished. But yeah, I think they're around 60 to 70%, throughout the year, which
That's
is pretty
good.
great.
Yeah. To hell.
There's peak times and there's slow times, just like any other business. So I mean, there's, like I've got one person that's been in one of my units for 5 months straight. So.
Oh, really?
So we get a decent amount of those opportunities where people are coming in, transitioning to a new job, and don't want to buy a house yet, and they just kind of want to chill and make sure they like their job. So they just they'll rent, and sometimes they'll stay for 2 months. They're like, all right, I'm going to stay for another month and stay for another month, and
Would you cut them a deal of some kind?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, but people do, and that's shocking to me. But they'll rent a place for 5 months or 4 months or whatever.
I mean, it's totally furnished. It's got everything you need. The utilities paid for. I mean, it's the easiest living you'll ever do. I mean, you don't have nothing to take care of. I mean, it's
no lawn to mow, nothing.
Nothing.
Parking right outside.
Nothing. So I mean, whereas the unit, if you were to rent it as an apartment, might be, half the price for a long term. Again, you're not paying any utilities. You're not paying any. You don't have to furnish. You don't have to move anything. Good to go.
Yeah.
Traveling nurses, get a lot of them.
Oh, really?
Not as much, but definitely like coming out of COVID, there was, hospitals were begging for people to come to town. So, but yeah, it's a nice little business.
So the social as a bar has gone through a kind of two or three iterations.
Really, only one.
Oh, one?
Yeah, when we opened in 2010, we opened as as a cocktail bar and restaurant. Our main focus there was to really have a very expansive, large cocktail list, huge selection of spirits. A lot of smaller producers. So you wouldn't see on our back bar, you wouldn't see Absolute and Belvedere, and you wouldn't see these kind of bigger brand names. You'd see smaller producers. Single farm products. And on our drink list, I think we might have 30, 40 cocktails on the list, and 75% of those are unique. They're our creations. We have a huge absinthe list, so we have, I think we're up to like 17 different types of absinthe, which not many places really anywhere have. So we really love the history behind that. And then our food was very again very unique, very farm to table driven. Small but tight. We had 6, 7 small plates and 3 or 4 entrees, and so and we had a great time. We have 4 big tables, so it's all communal seating. The whole idea was that was social, felt like a dinner party. Like when you came in, our staff made you feel like you were coming into their private dinner party. You would sit with our friends, their friends, your friends that you didn't know you had. And that became the kind of vibe, like you'd roll in, a couple would sit next to another couple. By the end of dinner, they're friends. We see people sharing food with each other, drinks with each other. We've even seen ex-partners sit together inadvertently. It's not always perfect, but
and fights haven't broken out.
yeah, no fights. Haven't knock on wood. It's been 16 years, no fights, or 15. I don't know how many years. 10, yeah, 15 years. And then COVID happened, and we basically kind of took social and Brio, and we kind of mushed them together over at Brio, because we didn't have, we were only doing takeout food for a long time, and basically we gave all our staff opportunity. If you wanted to work, you can be on our to-go takeout team. We did other events as well, but or if you didn't want to work and you wanted to stay home, and we bring you back when we had more need for people. Kind of what PPP provided for us, the ability to keep people on that wanted to stay on but didn't want to work. And so so we did that for however long COVID lasted. I mean, it kept going up and down and open and close and all that. So it was obviously a roller coaster for us in this industry and many others in our staff. But then when we finally got out, right? We're finally we're open, we're back. We didn't open social right away because after COVID, it was impossible to find staff. I mean, we were in the industry, and not just me, other restaurant owners, all over the country were, 2 arms, 2 legs, you're hired. I mean, it was just that just that bad. You couldn't find anybody to step foot in it for a myriad of reasons that I won't get into, because there's subjective ideas there, but they just weren't coming in, and the ones that were just weren't of the highest caliber. So we weren't in a hurry.
There were a lot of people in the restaurant business who went out and found 9-to-5 jobs.
Correct.
And they,
Yep.
I talked to a bunch of folks who just really enjoyed the change.
Yep. I mean, it was what do they call it, the big break, or the big. There was a term they coined, because everybody took a break. Everybody just took, and then everybody took stock in their life and what they were doing and what their hours were and what their stress levels were and what their money was, and you saw a lot of people oh yeah, I don't want to work nights and weekends, and so you saw a lot of people left the industry, and then so we weren't in a big hurry to open another restaurant again, because quite frankly we just had Abreo, we had a good core group of people, and everything was gelling, and we were getting our feet back, and but then as we went along, it was people started coming back. The people that did leave the industry realized that it is a great industry, and it's very rewarding, and it can be very successful financially, we started offering benefits, which is a life goal of myself for our companies.
Well, really, what kind of benefits do you offer?
So we have medical benefits. So it's not 100% covered, of course, but we have a group plan so that it's very affordable for our staff, more so than it would be to go out in the open market. They have, and then they have the ability for add-on options for. We pay a portion of it, of course, but and then we have add-on dental and eye options because of the group.
I didn't know that. That's pretty unusual for a restaurant, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we also have I think we have it's like a complimentary life insurance up to like 25,000. That's complimentary. It just comes with, for everybody, and then we do a match program for IRA. So we have a retirement plan that we match up to 3% of what any of our employees contribute. Some years it's 2%, some it's 3%. It's an accounting thing, but so that allows us to get people. Again, we want people to think about this industry and working in the industry as a chef or a server, or bartender, or manager, to be an actual career. That they can hold against something else, like being a nurse or being an electrician or one of the trades or any other job, and say, it's a little bit more apples to apples, And so we've started seeing a lot of people come back, and I think the work environment is much healthier. The benefits are better, the pay is better, and more competitive to other industries. And that's my ultimate goal, is that this industry isn't thought of as just the entry level work that you do till your grown up job.
Right. So you get
your weekend,
a real job.
Yeah, or your weekend thing that you do in addition to your other job. Like, we have people that are making six figures, and they're driving nice cars, and they're paying for their family's vacations, and they're putting money away to their retirement. They're getting the the medical attention that they need and for their families, because they're working for one of our companies.
Well, sorry for the interruption, but it seems to me I've noticed you have a very low turnover. Abreo, especially, you have that's one I noticed, and also at Social.
Yeah.
And that's really got to be a huge reason. You have to cut down on turnover quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most bars and restaurants are every 6 months, 9 months, a year.
It's hard.
You got people who stay.
Yeah, we're blessed. We have a lot of really great core team that stick around for 5, 10, 15 years. I've got some that have been with me 20 years. I've got one that's been with me since day one still.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Elizabeth. She came with the building. She's still with me. She's amazing. And so we still go through turnover, and we still have challenging periods of time, and it's still a restaurant industry, so it's not. It happens, but I think again, my goal is to make the work environment and the benefits and make it a career for people. But that's a big part of it. So back to Social, that was all kind of part of like why we were still closed. I think we were closed for 2 years after initially shut down. And of course, people were asking about it, and they were asking about it. And then we brought it back. But when we brought it back, again, we were still in a staffing issue. We were still, we still didn't have, line out the door of great applicants, people that were with the company when we closed 2 years ago. Either moved on to different opportunities that were outside of the industry or just weren't ready. So, as I always do, I always look at different opportunities and different creative ideas to do something that I think would bring value to the community, to downtown, and obviously be successful. And so we looked into like charcuterie. Like we make a lot of charcuterie, cured meats, salamis, sausages, prosciuttos. And so we love this world, and we always did a lot of it at Social already. And so when we reopened as a charcuterie bar. And then the idea was that we were going to have this charcuterie bar that almost resembled a sushi bar. That you would come in and you'd build these big, beautiful boards, and they would have all these different meats and cheeses and olives and pickles and mustards and jams and toasts and and a really fun and interactive, small plate pinchos, kind of Spanish lifestyle type menu. And we did have a menu of pinchos, which, little Spanish tapas. They basically little one-biters that there'd be a toothpick in.
Right.
Like if you're in Spain, you go to Pincho Bar and you just, you order, just start taking pinchos off the bar, and then at the end you hand in your sticks and they charge you for how many sticks you have. It's a really casual, it's really fun, it's really urban, and so we were like, all right, well, the world hasn't come back completely yet, and so we thought it would be a good, a good vibe for people that were going out to eat or going out to concerts, kind of getting back to life, to be a stop, like before dinner or after dinner or late night, because again, our focus has always been on the bar and the cocktails. And so we really, just kind of threw all of our effort into making this charcuterie bar work. And so we rebranded as, social charcuterie bar and cocktails. We had QR codes for viewing the menu and paying for the menu, and it was a shit show. It just, everybody wanted what they remembered and wanted what they
wanted the old stuff.
Yeah, wanted what they loved when we closed.
Want a pork chop? Give me a pork chop.
Give me a pork chop. Give me my tacos. Give me my hot chicken. Give me all these things, and so, as in life, as in business, you try things. You put all your effort into it, and then you look back and you're like, was that the right move? Do I continue or do I adjust? And it was, it was a complete, total failure.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I loved it, and there was a small amount of people that loved it, but it wasn't. If we would have been like a whole new concept, maybe like a new owner, a new brand, a new whatever, I think, and it was probably done better, honestly, because I don't think we executed it as well as we thought we were going to. But if it was a total, like there's a company in the suburbs, I forgot what their name is, but they're a charcuterie only restaurant, and that's literally all they do. But they're more of like a carry out business, like you can email and like create these boards and go pick them up. So there's all kinds of businesses that work. I think, in hindsight, we took something that people loved, and then we brought it back as something totally different. And they don't even care if it was good. It just wasn't what they loved.
Right.
And that was enough to just, alienate a lot of people. And so we really struggled. Our staff, God bless them. They are troopers. They never left. We had some turnover in the kitchen, but all the front of house, Adam, Quessy, Heidi, Mike, everybody stuck it out, and about, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months ago, we pretty much transitioned, completely back to the old format. So several months ago, we just, we love what we did. We loved what we did before we shut down, and we loved, we loved the vibe that we had, and we loved our guests that were so passionate about what they loved,
right,
that they, without saying it, they said it. And so we're, we've transitioned, essentially back to exactly what we were before. You can find the small plate menu right now on the entree list too. We've got some of the classics back on the menu: the hot chicken, the pork chop, the pork tacos, the cheese curds. We've got a killer New York on the menu. Taylor's been in that kitchen with me for I don't even know how many years. I mean, he was there. Then he came over to Abreo and worked, until it reopened and went back over there. Adam, Quest, Mike, Heidi are still, slinging drinks and.
Well, you still have charcuterie boards, though, don't you?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah,
we haven't got rid of
still there.
It's just the format isn't just charcuterie, and I think that's what people, the people that haven't been back as regular, just think it's just all charcuterie bars, and you can't have an entree and small plate.
So, I mean, you can come in, have a charcuterie plate, or let's say a couple comes in, they split a charcuterie plate, and they want to split a pork chop.
Yeah,
I mean, they could do that, or a steak, or
yeah. I mean, we still have really great charcuterie boards, but then we have small plates, entrees, cocktails. So basically, kind of going back to the beginning of it, we had one brand transition when we reopened that failed miserably, and now we've reverted back to our original, exciting, successful, and making people happy format. So,
oh, okay. So it's making people happy.
yeah. So,
And now, Disco Chicken is just chicken, or do you have other stuff there?
yeah, I mean the core product is chicken. There, we do chicken tenders, chicken sandwiches, and loaded tots, which are like nachos, but with tater tots instead of tortillas. So those are like our three core products, and we sell so many chicken tenders. It's absolutely incredible the amount of chicken we go through there. So that's and then our sandwiches. We on the truck we have like three types. We have like an OG, DCV1, which is just basically our disco chicken sauce, which is comparable to many of the different chicken sauces that you'll find at like at Cane's or Chick-fil-A or mayonnaise, ketchup, spices. But we have our version, of course, and then we have like a Korean barbecue on, and we've got one that's a crab rangoon flavored. It's like crab cream cheese, jalapeno, sweet sour sauce. So in the truck we have like three sandwiches, but at the restaurant we were able to expand the menu. So I think we have 9 different sandwiches, 8 or 9 different sandwiches. We have, again, tenders. You can get them in 2-piece, a 4-piece. You get a party platter, and then we have our loaded tots.
Now, is a tender like a strip or?
Yeah, I mean they're pretty big. I mean they're I mean those things can weigh up to 2, 3, 4 ounces each.
Oh, really?
So they're real healthy. Our breading is great. Our technique is great. They're nice and crispy. The brine on them is really great, so they
Now
stay
let me
nice and moist.
ask you about that. You season them themselves. I mean, you buy the chicken.
Yeah. We just get raw. Yeah, we get raw chicken. Take care of all that.
And so you season it, do
Yep.
all that.
Yep.
All right, that's what makes it really different. And,
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so the restaurants allowed us also to have a gluten-free and vegan fryers, so that we're able to accommodate a lot of gluten-free allergy.
Really?
We've got gluten-free breading. We've got gluten-free buns. We've got this really great sandwich that's both gluten-free and vegan. It's called the Imposter. And we've got this technique on taking tofu, where we actually we cut it in a kind of a shape of a chicken breast, so it's just like kind of a slice of tofu. But we have this technique. Learned it from a friend of mine that used to work at a vegan restaurant in Detroit. So we take the chicken and we freeze it and thaw it 3 times. And every time you freeze it and thaw it, more moisture comes out of the tofu. And so after the 3rd time, you've got this tofu that's lost basically all of its moisture, and so the texture becomes a little tougher, more like meat, like protein, like chicken.
Right.
And then we make a vegan buttermilk. It's got some acid in there, and then so it reabsorbs and kind of rebrines it. And so it's really good. And we put a lot of work into it. So we've had a lot of success there. Especially because, like, I talk to, I mean, almost daily, you talk to people that are gluten free, and they're like, I haven't had fried chicken in 20 years. Like it's just because, it's a hard thing to do, to dedicate an entire, and it's a pretty small kitchen.
Right.
To dedicate an entire fryer to be able to do that, but we think it's worth it, and even though the percentage isn't huge, those people are very grateful and very loyal to the brand, for it. So it's great for us and it's great for them. So everybody wins.
Well, the Element sponsored an event pre-COVID for vegan food and stuff. And the vegan people came up afterwards and just were so grateful
Yeah.
that somebody had acknowledged them and had an event. I mean, there's a loyalty there that
There
you
is,
just
and
don't
it's
find.
if you're not gluten free or or vegan, and I'm not either of those. It's kind of hard to understand like how big of an impact it makes, But I feel like now that I've been doing it for over a year, and just hearing so many, I'm like, all right, well, yeah, this was a good decision, because I really genuinely feel bad, that they don't have as many options. I kind of just assumed everybody did this, but apparently
They don't.
they
No,
don't.
it's very rare. It
Yeah,
really is.
because at the other restaurants we always have vegan and gluten free options because, we have so many. The menu's varied. There's so many types of things. But at a fried chicken restaurant, it's
Yeah.
it's fried chicken, so it's like it's hard to accomplish. But so we're glad we do. So we've really loved that place. We put a lot of time and effort into just making it a really fun, vibrant, exciting location with the rooftop. Programming. We have music on the roof a lot. We have we have a second floor that has room for private parties, private events, larger groups. And then it's just a really lively place. And what we really love about it is we've been able to bridge the kind of gap all day long. So we have, during the day we get people are coming in for business, work lunches because we're quick, we're fast. There's always a $10 $10 entree item on the menu. It's good for takeout, carry out, DoorDash. So like our lunch is very driven towards families and people on break for work, and then as you go into the evening, it's very family friendly. So it's great for families before concerts or Disney on Ice or Ice Hogs or whatever is going
they
on
want,
downtown, or after a baseball game or after a soccer match or whatever. So it's very family friendly. And then as it goes even later into the night, it's like the kids get dropped off with the babysitters and the parents come back, and then it's it becomes this really great adult nightlife that's not a club, but it's also not just a bar.
Well, let's talk about that because does it have electronic dance music or?
Yeah, so it's not always.
I know that you're a fan of this.
Yeah. So I mean, Disco Chicken. I mean, at the core of what we are, underground dance music, house, techno, is. I mean, I'm a DJ. I grew up in the '90s. Going to see underground music in Chicago, Detroit, New York, Madison, Milwaukee. So that's always a big part of like the culture. And when you walk in, you'll see flyers on the DJ booth, on the bar, other places in the restaurant. From old club rave flyers, things like that. They're fun, they're colorful. It was a short period of our culture, and it was fun for me to bring that back. 25 years later, but our music. At disco isn't always dance music, but it is electronic. So, and what I mean by that is, like, if you go in there today, like we had Milky Chance and just a lot of like kind of current indie dance things playing. We do playlists where it's 90s industrial. 9 Inch Nails, Nitzareb, KMFDM, things like that. We just and then there's like traditional disco.
From the late '70s, you mean?
Yeah, we're doing an event with Skylar at Culture Shock coming up in a week or two, and we're gonna do ABBA to Zappa. And
You're kidding
like
me.
it's just gonna be all vinyl, and so you'll be able to come in and like flip through his vinyl and throw on a track and or have him throw on a track, and he's gonna play music. We'll have stuff from The Cure. We'll have 90s hip hop, 2000s hip hop. I mean, electronic music is so much more vast than just club dance music, and I think that's kind of a misconception, with
Right.
what happens down there. And of course, when it gets, kind of later in the evening, a lot of the more dancey type stuff will happen, right? We got a DJ on the roof. We've got some amazing DJs in this community. We bring people from out of town. Legends like Hyperactive, Woody McBride, Fortune. I mean, we've had a ton of people from out of town come in and play.
Now, where does somebody find out who's going to be the disco DJ for the night?
Mostly just social media, Instagram, Facebook.
And a chicken disco? Or
DiscoChicken815.com.
Okay.
Or just, you search Disco Chicken 815 and you'll find us everywhere.
815, okay.
But then, like I said, like, again, on a what is today? Tuesday? Monday? Monday at lunch, you're going to walk in there and, you're not going to hear, a club track playing at 2:00, in the afternoon. It's going to be chill. It's going to be calm. But it'll be electronic of some fashion, and that's really, it just really kind of gives exposure to all that style of music and how vastly different it can all be. And it's not just,
Yeah, and music is
I wonder
kind
how
of
that comes through on the speaker.
Well, he'll fix it. If it doesn't sound good, he'll fix it. The master, Curvin, just to acknowledge again.
The master.
But there's a different music vibe at each restaurant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Abreo has, what would you call that?
So at Abreo, I mean, really at any of the places, we don't really have a set. I shouldn't say we don't have a set music style for Abreo or social, and really any of them. I mean, the only one, like, you could say disco, electronic, so that kind of cuts out half of the genres, but there's so many genres left in there. But, like, I mean, Abreo, we play what's right for the crowd. We read the crowd, and it's a lot of indie music, stuff. I think we like to play stuff that people don't hear on a normal, so that it's like it's just like our food.
Right.
At Brio, that's our flagship, for lack of a better term. I mean, that's the first one that opened. That's the one that for me is the most creative as far as the idea of what Brio is, and I call it Brio. Everybody should just call it Brio. It was Brio.
You call it Brio, yeah.
I call it Brio. Anyways, but there it's always like we just really want to push. We want to push our food. We want to push our drinks. We want to push ourselves to give the coolest experience we can to people that come in, and the most unexpected experience that they can have. Like we want our guests to taste something new, hear something new, see something new every time they come in. Like, that would be, if I talk to a guest and that's what they tell me, like, man, every time I come in here, I'm trying something I would have never normally tried. Or I heard this song, I had to Shazam it because I've never heard it before. It was so cool. Or like, I didn't know you could put, tomato water in a cocktail and I would love it because I hate tomatoes. And like, that's 100% what I want people to get when they go to Brio. Like, and so that drives our goals. That drives our reasoning when we make changes to the menu. But based on the season, based on the farmer, based on what we're excited about.
Well, I mean, you changed the menu at Brio a lot, quite a bit. So, where's the creativity? Where do the new dishes come from? The ideas for the new dishes, because a lot of it just seems like you guys make it up, or.
And a lot of it we do, but it's most of it's based on experiences, whether it's experiences traveling. I travel as much as I can. I mean, every second I'm not at work, I want to be traveling. That's pretty much.
Oh, really?
I love traveling. I love. I mean, there's just so much to learn, and taste, and see, and feel. And it just, I think it all just goes into your memory bank. Whether or not you know when it's going to get pulled up. But I mean, I'll be, because most of our cooking is determined on the ingredient, right? So, so right now, we're in fall, right? So, squashes, beets, those things are prevalent. It's getting colder, so we're thinking about a lot of grains, pastas, polentas, things of that nature. So the seasonality is really the most important thing, right? So, because it's, if squashes and beets and root vegetables and carrots and parsnips and all those things are grown out of, our garden or our farmers' gardens, that's what we want to serve because it's going to be the best thing you could eat right now. And it's what we're meant to eat, So I wouldn't be making a menu, that I'm trying to put strawberries on right now because strawberries were in April and May. And so if I get a strawberry on the menu right now, it's going to just be shipped from somewhere, and it's not going to taste like the one that I had in May, right?
So how much are you locally sourcing? 90%, 85%?
I don't even know what the percentage is. We just try to do as much as we can. We have our own farm where we farm, and we didn't do very well this year because I lost my full-time farmer last year, and I tried to do a lot of it myself this year, and I failed miserably. But I've got beautiful carrots. I've got a lot of beautiful chilies and peppers and herbs and tomatoes, and we did okay. But my other farmers, that we work with, we work with Van Lars. We work with Pheasant Hill Farms. So we get lamb from them. McKenna, we get our hogs from them. Borelli family, we get produce from them. We go to the farmers market, and meet new people all the time. Cody's is a new one that we're working with this year.
So these are all farms within 60 miles?
Oh yeah. Probably most of them within 20.
20 miles.
Yeah. So it for the most part it kind of starts there. What do you have? What are your ingredients? And then what do you want to do with them? And so and then what do you want to do with them? Either comes out of your memory bank, or it comes, with your team, other chefs' memory banks, and you just kind of talking out ideas. Sometimes we'll cook something, we'll make a sauce, and be like, the sauce is really good. What do we want to pair the sauce with? Or sometimes we take, like we got a new dish on the menu right now, Abreo. It's just it's a carrot dish, but it's our carrots, where we actually juice carrots, and then we poach the carrots in the carrot juice, and then we reduce that carrot juice to make a glaze around the carrot. So it's like this double double carrot experience, and it's sweet. And then we add some vinegar. So it's got a little sour. We make the spice blend that we finish it with. That gives it a little bit of interest.
Right.
We finish it with some pomegranate seeds, a little bit of yogurt, some mint, and some garlic confit. So it's, it hits everything. It's a little sweet, it's a little sour, it's a little salty umami, it's got a little spice, it's got crunch, and it's just a plate of carrots. But that's exciting to me, like as far as a dish, because somebody's going to come in and they're going to sit down and they're going to eat those carrots. They're going to be like, oh, shit, man, that's just a plate of carrots. But I would never thought I'd like a damn plate of carrots so much. And it's like, yeah, like, so, and that's the, and again, it takes skill. It takes people that can execute, right? If you gave that dish to a group of people that didn't have experience and really putting in that kind of effort to make food taste really good and to be trained to know techniques and, again, how to know when to stop cooking that carrot before it turns to mush, but not too soon where it's hard, and to not reduce that sauce too much where it becomes like broken.
Well, that's where you have to be a chef.
Yeah, and that's so that's where Brio has always been like that's kind of been our thing, right? Like we want to push ourselves to, like, again, how do we make carrots? How do we elevate a carrot?
Well,
Like,
I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about, okay, this is interesting because carrots are, chopped up for me and whatever.
Just put them in a stick and dip them in ranch, right? That's all they're there for.
But, you've got it at a whole nother level, and I would never even try it.
Yeah.
you know.
And so, and so that's, so Breo's always been that. Like, we've always just really wanted that, that fun, exploration of, really cool, interesting flavors and techniques and these small plates, so you can travel through the menu, and you don't have to commit to one thing. You can have 3 different plates of food to make up your meal instead of just ordering one as an entree.
Right. Okay, so you're answering in a way the question I want to ask is, where's the creativity come from? But it's
I don't know,
partly
like they
in
say
you.
about they say about the Twinkies, it was just born there.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, you just have it naturally.
Yeah, I mean, we just,
But where do you feed it from going traveling?
I mean, I would say that a lot of the ability to be creative comes from the fact that I've traveled so much, that I have so many things stored in my brain from like what I've seen, whether it was being in India or Thailand or Germany or Jamaica or Honduras or wherever. You might not like come home right away and make a dish inspired by your journey, but it's just all kind of back up in there, and then when the carrot pops up and you're like, oh yeah, this is a dish I'm going to try, so and it's it's a lot of research, it's a lot of reading cookbooks and following chefs that you think are doing really cool stuff. There's these guys out of England. It's a restaurant called Fallow. I found them on Instagram, and they just do tons of these cooking videos, and you're like, man, there's ones that I first saw taking carrot juice and poaching the carrots in there and then reducing that liquid down. So that one was like, you found it, like you went out and and found an idea that sounded really interesting to you.
And then you create it or
Yeah.
replicate it.
But so I saw it, I saw that video, I don't know when I saw it, months ago, years ago maybe. But then the carrot season came, and
it pops in your head.
Yeah, so I think it's just everything, right? If what you do you love, and you're always thinking about it, and you're always trying to learn more, then it just naturally starts, it'll percolate to the top, just like an artist who, all of a sudden decides to paint with, their shoe because it makes a cool pattern on the thing because they were in some random street festival and in Moscow, and it was just like they saw somebody do it, and it just sticks in their memory bank. And I think that's how any creative works. They just store it all up and search their brain for it.
Well, now one of the other things I wanted to cover was your origins as a chef, and you started working at Cafe Patou.
Yeah, Cafe Patou was my first elevated cooking position. I was a cook before then, at a bar and restaurant at Indoor Sports Center. Dreads was the name of the restaurant.
Indoor Sports Center
yep,
for the Park District owns. Yeah, okay.
So back when the Wedgeberries was still the Wedgeberry complex and they owned it, that was my first cooking job, and I got really into wanting to do more there, which led me to Cafe Patou. Because my father took me to Cafe Patou on my 18th birthday.
All right.
Because I was like, I'd heard about it, it was this obscure little restaurant in this weird little strip mall and this weird, if you remember where it was like,
yeah.
It's like next to that, there was that golfing, there was that golf store.
Yeah, it was a golf store.
Yeah, and then there was Cafe Patou, and it was
a hairstylist or something.
Yeah, it was just like, you had to walk up those weird stairs. But anyways, so my dad took me there for my 18th birthday, and I don't remember the full meal. I remember that I had ostrich. It was like an ostrich steak, and it's a real lean meat, kind of like an elk or a caribou, and it had like a cherry sauce or something, like a reduction of cherries and port wine, and I was just like, wow, this is wild, like who the hell's eating this shit, I am, like right now. And I was like, so I asked if I could go back in the kitchen and meet the chef. Went back and introduced myself to Philippe Forcioli, the owner and the chef, and told him that I wanted to work there and I wanted to cook there and do whatever I could to get in there because it was the only place in town that was doing anything close to that unique. And he's like, okay, and whatever, just some 18-year-old kid who was walking into his restaurant. And so my strategy was to call him weekly to ask if they had any opening. My birthday's in October, so October 23rd, coming up here soon. So, but then I felt like that was going to be too needy sounding, like the guy who calls every week, like. So I was like, well, okay, so every other week I'll call, and the weeks between I'll email. That was my strategy.
Yeah.
So I did. So for the next 3 months, I would email and call him every other week, check on him, like just let him know I was still there. And then in January, he called me and said, I've got an externship available. It's a non-paid externship where I could come work for free, and I was like, sure, okay, cool, sign me up. And so I think I worked there for about 2 months or just under, and for free. I was going to culinary school at the time.
Where were you going to school?
In Janesville, Blackhawk Tech.
Blackhawk, yeah.
Yep, they got a nice program up there. I heard it's really nice now. Like they built out a whole kitchen classroom and all these things. When I was there, it was pretty, like you basically just had like a normal classroom where they were probably doing an accounting class before us, and then you went over to the kitchen and you just cooked or whatever. So I go to school. I went to school from like, I don't know, it's like I think I had a baking class that started at like 7, and then I'd go straight from there to Cafe Batu, from Janesville straight there and work. And so, and I worked there, and then after a couple months, he brought me on, full time, and within a couple of years, ended up becoming the head chef.
So you were head chef at Cafe Batu for a while.
In the last two years. I was there 5 years, so the last 2 I was the head chef. So spent 3 years, just grinding there, and it was awesome. It was so.
Well,
fun.
it was a great restaurant.
Yeah,
it really
it was a great restaurant. It was it was just Philippe. He was just wild. Like, there was a time when he double booked their private room. They had a small private room. If you were to walk in that front door, go to the right. There's this private room, and he had double booked it. He had a party of like 30 and a party of like 20, and the room held like 60 people. But it was just one room. And so he calls a builder friend of his, a contractor, sends him like some plans on how to build a partition wall, built with electrical. So I had sconces with a dimmer switch in them, and it was this beautiful wall. And he's like, all right, we're gonna build this tonight. I think the party was the next day, and I was like, all right. So I stayed up all night with him. We went to Home Depot. We got all the supplies, and we just built the wall and made 2 rooms.
Really?
And did both parties. And I always hold on to that as like the thing in my. You talk about your experiences. You put them in your back of your brain, and then they come out. Whenever you need them. It's like I always think back to that. When I'm faced with a challenge or something where I've got to create 2 rooms out of 1. But that was just a lot of what the experiences were like there. For me as a young person, I started working there, again when I was 18. Left when I was 23, 22, 23, and then never worked for anybody else again. So I never had a lot of experience being an employee because I was only an employee until I was 23, and then I was my own boss. So I think that makes that experience with him so much more impactful because really nobody else showed me anything, and I had no other experiences. And he also, which I imagine so many people have worked for me over the years, he learned a lot of things to do and not to do. Right?
Well,
And I think that's what was really exciting about that. I had the intimate closeness with him
right.
to not only just be like a cook or a chef in his restaurant, but I mean, I worked side by side with him, you know, where I could ask him anything, you know, from bookkeeping to accounting to marketing to, you know, guest relations to hospitality to wine to service. And it was just all, it was just open AI, you know, it was like everything was available for conversation.
So he really mentored you in the business, not just being a chef, but in the business of owning a restaurant.
I didn't know it at the time. I mean, it wasn't a plan.
It wasn't a plan.
It wasn't like, you know, there was never this conversation where we ever had where we were like, well, would you open a restaurant someday? I was always just trying to execute my job every day. And so, and the job came to an end abruptly. I never really had, there was no, the finality to that job was kind of taken away because I got let go after 9/11 because he went through the whole stupid ass Freedom Fry stuff and like, you know, and then just business, you know, tanked and through several other things, you know, I was his biggest payroll. So I got let go kind of abruptly. So that was kind of so I never really had that. We never talked about like future dreams or, you know, things like that. It was just like, we were just always grinding, but we did it, you know, we did it such close proximity. It was, and I don't know how many times I spent the night there at the restaurant,
Really?
you know, be like work until 6 a.m. and Easter brunch starts at, you know, 8 a.m. and go sit out in the booth and take a nap and get back up and do it.
Well, that brings me to one of my other questions is, you know, you seem to to do the design remodeling of these restaurants. They're all in older buildings.
Yeah.
You haven't really remodeled the Irish Rose.
Well,
But-
I did a lot of stuff, but you don't see it because it was all like in the kitchen and the back rooms and stuff. But yeah,
But I mean, you redid social a couple times. There was something else in there, a
Crew.
sandwich.
Yeah, Crew. Yeah,
That was just a place that was ahead of its time.
yeah.
It was a great thing for
Love that
downtown, but it was
restaurant.
just ahead of its time.
Yeah.
But that was one. Then you had a remodel for social, and you did the remodeling. I
Yeah.
mean, you designed that, so to speak.
Yep.
And then you did it. Did you do it with a crew or?
Yeah, I mean, I always work with contractors. I mean, I'm just very hands on. I usually act, you know, as the general, because I'm not really good at planning, so I'm probably hard to work with in a like it would be really hard for me to sit down and like put the whole plan together, and then, you know, and I'm like, all right, let's break these walls down and then see what it looks like. So the contractors that I work well with are ones that work well under those kind of conditions, right? Ones that can kind of go step at a time and just kind of build as we go. And I've had a lot of success with those contractors. Just, you know, it's a point and click. You know, it's like, oh, hey, you know, like I got a random ass idea. I'll call them like, hey, you think we could, like the bar top at Social. Like I had that idea in my head for that, you know,
The
the
river?
light, the river of the colored lights and being up, you know, lit from underneath. And this is before LED lights, so those are actually rope lights in there.
Right.
Like, because and my contractor at the time was like, I don't know how we're gonna do this. There's no, like, you know, he never had a solid plan for how to do it, and I hadn't yet. And then finally, like literally like the week, we still didn't have a bar. Like everything else was pretty much done. We didn't have a bar, and like it was like the week of, and I was like, I think I have the idea. And I'm like, so, you know, we're gonna cut this path, and then we're going to lay plexiglass over it, and then we're going to glue these chunks of glass to it, and then we're going to build a wood frame, and then we're going to pour concrete over it, and then we're going to put epoxy over it. Does that work? And then we'll use rope lights because they tie together, so we could fish one through by pulling one through, and then when that one dies, we connect, you know, a new one to the back end, and we could pull it through, so we'll always be able to change the light. Does that work? He's like, son of a bitch. He's like, yeah, I got to work. So we were literally like, it was a weekend before we opened. We got the structure done. I found the glass block from Frank Houtkamp.
Yeah.
Frank. He got his shop down next to 27 Luna, and he found me this glass, and they come in these bricks. They're 10 inches by 15 or so. And I was like, all right, that'll work. But then, we're like literally a cement truck's like coming, like it's scheduled, and I can't break this glass. I can't. It's too hard. I thought we were just gonna be like chip it with a hammer or whatever to make these little chunks, and it wouldn't break. So I had to get like a sledgehammer. But then these things are sharding off, and like I think this is a scar actually, where like a shard that went into my arm, and so we're out there. I've got like a full winter jacket on. We open in May, so this is like late spring, early summer, so it's not cold out. And I've got a full winter jacket on. I got goggles and a helmet, and I'm out there sledgehammering this glass to get it broken up. And then the cement truck's coming, so we're literally like getting these pieces and gluing them down as the cement's getting poured on one end. And I got staff, servers, and bartenders and cooks. We're using toothpick skewers because the cement wouldn't go in between all the glass, and so we had to like kind of push it in.
Right.
And it was just this comedy of whatever, and then we got done with it, and it was like, holy shit, this looks awesome.
Well, it does. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I will appreciate that.
Yeah.
River running through there.
If you could have watched it being made, I mean, it was the most unprofessional thing you'll ever see. It was hilarious, but it was
great. Okay. Well, getting close to the end, so I usually like to ask our guests 3 things they think are outstanding in Rockford, but you've traveled so much. I'm tempted to say, give me three of your favorite places or something like that you like. You like going to.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Before you do that, how much into dive bars? Are you still into dive bars?
Yeah, I love dive bars. Yeah.
And I mean, that's what you dive bar burger on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
So okay.
I always love a good dive bar. Yeah, I mean, places that I love to go. I mean, we went to our whole family went to Norway last year. Again, we're Norwegian by blood. My wife's family is Norwegian by blood too. So we ended up going to Norway for a couple of weeks with the family, and we brought my father with us. We went to the town of Sletten, where I'm assuming we got our name from. But
oh, cool.
And it was a nothing little town. I think there was a strip mall and a gas station, so it wasn't anything impressive, but it was nice to be at a train station and see your name on it. But Norway, just the whole culture of Norway, kids are going to school outside. They're eating salmon for lunch, and they're active, and they're nice, and they're they're living off the land, and I don't know. We all fell in love with the culture there. So I think that was one of our favorite trips that we've made. My wife's from Belize, so we've been down there a few times. I just love being down there. I mean, it's just got a huge family. But again, just the culture down there is really fun. The place is beautiful. So a place that I could go back to, anytime. I think my middle son's going to go out there either this summer or next summer, spend a couple months. They do a lot of archaeology down there, and our family's involved with like uncovering these sites, and so it's kind of like a rite of passage for the young men in the family to go spend a summer
doing archaeology.
So we love Belize. Is definitely up there. And then it's funny to say in Rockford, where do I go? Obviously I'm in my restaurants so much that I don't always get out, but I just love being downtown. Like and I mean, it stems from 5 years ago, coming downtown, going to Kryptonite. When we first opened, we were good friends with Chris, and we still are. Koviak, going to Kryptonite, and our staff would go down there after work. His
Sure.
staff would come to our place, and it for 20 years, just coming downtown has always just felt like just home. There's so many events that are happening. There's so many cool art events, great music events, food. I can't put a pin on a single place,
Well, that's fine.
and it would, but I truly do feel like downtown is just a place that, and the reason that I'm totally fine being committed down here is because I genuinely love being down here. Like, I genuinely find happiness down here. Love seeing what's coming down the pipeline. Love the people that have been down here forever, making it what it is.
Right.
I love being a part of it myself now. So,
Well, thank you for sharing all that you've done
Sure.
in downtown and
Thanks for having
currently
me.
doing. And we appreciate it, Paul. And we'll call it a podcast on that.